Now, here's one thing. I think two things I wanted to mention while I had you guys. One, I'm going to put Fabs in.
That's what I was about to ask you. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
I've been in contact with some really knowledgeable characters.
And how did it start out? Like, what was the origin story?
Too much alcohol.
Really? Okay.
Says if God wanted us to have fiberglass boats, he would have given us fiberglass trees.
It's for fishermen. It's not for taking the wife and the wife's friends.
I think that it's a really, really pretty bit.
And then there was a blur that went by and ended up in the cockpit, as far as if I can remember correctly.
Welcome to the State of Sport Fishing Podcast. I'm Nick Carullo. Joined with me, my co-host Anthony Pino with Hooked Optics and captain of the Blood Money. Tonight, our guest is Carl Allen, entrepreneur, owner, and rebuilder of Walker Cay. Thanks for joining us, Carl. Appreciate your time. And why don't you give a little intro and tell everybody who you are?
Thank you, Nick. It's good to be here. So I'm Carl Allen. I'm 57 years old. I was born in New York on one of the Finger Lakes. I grew up in Chicago on Lake Michigan and discovered Stuart, Florida with my stepdad and Walkers when I was 12 years old and always dreamed of owning it. And that came true a few years ago.
Wow. How'd you get started in fishing overall, Mr. Allen?
Well, if you know where Rochester, New York is, home of Kodak, Xerox, it's northern New York. There's a really neat little Finger Lake south of there called Canisius Lake. It's about 7 miles long and about a mile wide. And my parents had a lake house there, and I had a bunch of relatives. I would go there every summer and get into the sailing and sunfish and skiing. And one day I just picked up a fishing rod and started catching the sunfish and the bullheads and the bass, and there's a few northern pike and a few lake trout there. And I got addicted to it. And then moving to Chicago and, fishing for the coho and, the big German browns there in Lake Michigan with your downriggers out there. And then, I was 12 years old. My stepdad had a home in Stuart, Florida, and he rented a center console one day. And we go out to the St. Lucie Inlet, and just to the south there is what they call the Kingfish Hole. And we just slayed the Spanish mackerel. And I mean, it was, as a 12-year-old, you can imagine, it was like heaven on earth, and probably ruined my 6th, 7th, and 8th grade, educational career because I was staring out the window thinking about fish.
And did you kind of progress through as you got older, you kind of got in, how do you get into, owning boats and then keeping on fishing?
My stepdad, he had a home there he passed away a couple of years ago, but he had a home steward for many, many years. And he started out, with the center console and then he bought a Topaz, a Hatteras, and then he turned into just a Viking guy and had a 65 Viking. And, all those years we would take, summer trips to the Bahamas and, go all the way down to Long Island, go down to Hogs T Reef. Crooked was one of our favorite places. And so, we just, all of us, I had a bunch of stepbrothers, and we just loved going on those Bahama trips. And we'd go in the summer and a little bit in the fall. And then, of course, fishing off Stuart, there's all those wrecks there, and they got the 6 Mile Reef. And so I just kind of grew up doing it. I'm a big hunter, too. I've been all over the world hunting, and kind of stopped doing that when I retired, and I just focused on fishing. And when Walkers came available, it was one of these things more I got a chance to bring back to this sports fishing mecca that it's so well known for. And that was probably the biggest part of my dream come true was all the aspects of Walkers, but specifically the sports fishing and bringing that back. Did
you always, obviously, it fell into disrepair after a storm in the early 2000s, correct?
So, in 2004, it was hit by 2 major storms back to back, Janine and Francis. I think I got that order right, but it pretty much decimated the island, and she sat there as a rock, and my kids, there's a whole generation that doesn't really know what Walkers is. And so, I want to bring those people in, the younger crowd, but also, people my age and up to about 30, have this really incredible memory about Walkers and where it used to be.
Now, did you always feel like you even before it was, you would go over there and experience it? Like, was it an inkling in you that you were actually going to own it before then? Or, once the storms came and they kind of, it fell into disrepair, that kind of lit the fire. Was it?
Interesting question. I think I get asked that a lot. And I think I was always in love with it. I mean, coming over the banks when I was 12 and seeing walkers, I go, oh my God, think of the life these people have. And it was a dream to own it. Yeah. And then, I had a very successful business and luckily was blessed with that. And so later on, when I sold it 5 years ago and my wife and I kind of looked at each other, what were we going to do? And I'd gone to Walker since 04 and I brought my kids out there. We run down the runway and check out the old church and stuff like that. But I think it was around 2015 that I realized all these deals have been breaking up with Walkers. Why isn't it selling to somebody? This is a gem. And a lot of it had to do with the family that owned it, the Applenaps. They didn't want to sell it to a corporation. They want to sell it to another family. And so it took me literally a year, talking to the family in New York, because it was so important to them. They were going to bring it back eventually, I think, themselves. But the matriarch, Mrs. Applenap, she's still alive. She's 95, sharp as a tack, remembered everything about the island. And I think it was really important to her that she sold it to a family. And it was really neat. The day we closed was in April of 2018. She called me and realized that they had closed on Walkers in April of 1968, which was exactly 50 years later. Wow. And it's, pretty exciting. And I have been absolutely overwhelmed how many people are interested in that island. It's, incredible.
It kind of opens you up to an area, and I don't know the Bahamas, the fishing very much, but I look at the current charts there, and it kind of opens you up to an area that is kind of not very much fished. Most people fish that northern area, as far as I know. Up in that, out towards the Abacos more, and then obviously you could run to run over and fish the near side and from the States if you want to, but be there But there's just that giant area that's kind of.
Well, a lot of people like to fish the Horn that's off, about halfway between Florida and Walkers, and then the Manatilla Reef. People like that, and then of course Walkers. I mean, we've had a wonderful Marlin Wahoo season this year. Looking forward to the spring. We can talk about my tournament coming up, but the thing I say about Walkers is it's where the bonefish meet the billfish. And everything in between. I mean, I could sit here for hours and talk to you about what we do every day out there. I have a rule that we have to catch a fish, at least one fish every day. And some days that's pretty tough with the weather out there some days. So
how many slips, how many boats can you hold there at the marina?
Well, that's a good question, Nick. It kind of depends on the size, but let's just say that I did all center consoles and convertibles and things like that. I could probably get up to about 75 boats. Wow. But the way I did it, and I said this from the beginning, I'm trying to cater to the whole market because we're so close to Florida, well, we're 100 miles away, that we have a whole end of the marina dedicated to center console. The convertibles and the big sports fishing boats is my main passion, the main dock. Walking down like you used to the Gentry. And then, of course, I did something that's never been done at Walkers. We built a super yacht basin. One, because I got a couple of yachts I got to get into myself, but we can fit up to 8 200-foot yachts that draw up to 14 feet.
Wow. That's impressive.
So that's a little bit of everybody. Call me crazy, but I'm trying to, make everybody happy.
Yeah.
Tell us a little bit about your the island exploration before we get into the island. The restoration. I find that so fascinating. What you do.
So Island Exploration is actually an old company, but it really kind of got put on the map about 5 years ago when I sold. I was big into the plastics business. I was into a real glamorous business. I used to make trash bags and diapers, and I sold it. It was very successful 5 years ago, and I had this company called Allen Exploration that I had done some amateurish treasure hunting, and part of it was I decided after I sold the company that I was going to turn professional. And so part of what we do is we are licensed professional salvage hunters in the Bahamas. And that's kind of how it all got going there. So,
is there anything is there anything around Walker's that you've been chasing? Is there something like a ship that might be there, might not be, anything like that? I know you probably don't want to talk about it.
Can't give that away.
I mean, I can tell you this much, and maybe we don't have to spend a whole lot of time on it, but I've been passionate about search and salvage since I met Mel Fisher when I was about 20 years old. I'm a longtime diver, and I was down in Key West about 2 years after he found the Atocha, and I almost went to work for him, but he gave me the disease, and I was an amateur treasure hunter for years. And, my kids never knew it, but everywhere we went, we were amateur treasure hunting, and they would complain, "Dad, what are we doing?" I said, "Shut up, kid, keep digging." We would go to these places and actually I found some stuff in Puerto Rico. I found some stuff in the Caicos, Turks and Caicos. But my main, the Bahamas is absolutely loaded with wrecks. It took me many, many years to get a license. We have a museum that we're opening up hopefully April 1st in Lucaya, and we've recovered a whole bunch of artifacts from an old wooden ship.
Wow.
And we're going to go public here on it, I hope, in the next 45, 60 days before the museum opens. It's extremely exciting. I mean, it's fishing and hunting combined on steroids.
It seems like the only thing that may be more expensive than sport fishing is treasure hunting.
Anthony, you're onto something there. It is not cheap by any means. And if you try and get in this business to make money, don't do it.
Yeah.
But it's a real passion for me. I'm into the history of it. I've spent 20 years studying it in the archives and reading every book you can imagine, meeting the old treasure hunters myself. I knew Mel Fisher for a little while. I knew Bob Marks for a while. And, if you think about it, the Spanish, well, all of them, the Dutch, the English, they all had to come through the Florida Straits. And if they made it to around, say, Cape Canaveral and turned right, there's nothing in the way all the way to Spain.
Yeah.
But if you miss it, it's treacherous. And so there's literally thousands of, not all of them are treasure ships, don't get me wrong, but there are thousands of shipwrecks in the Bahamas. And it's clear, warm water. I hate, these guys that treasure hunt up in the Northeast and you have 6-inch visibility and you're, got bull sharks running into you. But what we do is fantastic. It's a whole separate fleet of boats. I got 9 boats that just do that.
Wow.
And it's going to be pretty exciting when it comes out. It's going to shock a lot of people, especially the people who are in the industry and what we've been able to find.
Nice.
Amazing.
And then going back to Walker's, you started that journey, you bought the island in 2018, April 2018, like you said. And then how long did it take you to get the ball rolling where you were like to get it to start the construction and then the reconstruction? And then you opened up, you kind of made the marina bigger and you made the cut deeper?
Yes, we did. We doubled the size of the marina and we doubled the depth. So
Okay.
Which is kind of neat. And we fixed up the whole, spoilage area it's got a neat plan, but here it is, guys. I'll give you the 5 minutes here. Is that we bought the island in 2018. I spent about 7 months planning, and we started digging around July of 2019. And as you all know, what happened September 1st of 2019, here comes Dorian. And the worst part of Dorian was not Walker's because we didn't have a lot going on. We lost a dredge and stuff like that, but nothing big. But what it did to the Abacos, obviously, and what it did to Little Grand Key. My neighbor has 500 residents on it. And luckily, by some miracle, nobody got killed. Nobody even got hurt.
Wow.
But everything was devastated. They lost their roofs. They lost their water. They lost their power, sewage. And I put my whole fleet to work for, about 4 months. We dropped everything at Walker's. And all we did was go back and forth to the West End, to Freeport, to Little Grand, one trip to the Abacos. And I have a big yacht support vessel that can hold a lot of stuff. And we delivered over 1 million pounds of goods in 3 months, not including fluids like diesel fuel and water. But it slowed us way down. And little did I know, Dorian was going to be a road bump compared to what was coming. And a lot of people don't really understand that when the United States is suffering, multiply that by 10 for the Bahamian. They're basically an extension of the U.S. over there. And when we're suffering, it's real bad over there. And when the pandemic hit, 80% of their economy is their GNP is tourism. They lost 80% of that overnight. And the people over there just went fishing. That's one of the things that it was the only place for them to get protein. I mean, it was amazing how many people you'd see fishing. They weren't, scarce of food. They were just broke. Yeah. Because there was no money coming in. So I did a lot of things for Little Grand. We did a little stimulus deal for them. We brought in a bunch of food all the time. I did things like fix their landfill. I built them a brand new basketball court. You'd be amazed at something as simple as a basketball court, how much joy that can bring a torn community like that. And so my wife and I have kind of adopted the key a little bit, and we realized that we're going to need a lot of those folks. They're so close, and they've been just devastated. And so I can't complain too much because although we've slowed way down, I've seen and witnessed what's going on with the rest of the folks. And Abaco is just still, I don't know if that's ever coming back in some places. But, when you go through the pandemic, the storm, a pandemic, labor issues, complete economic meltdown, we're not alone out there for sure. We do consider ourselves the gateway to the northern Bahamas, and we're about 2 years late, because based on everything. Our Marina's done. I've got wonderful Poraloo floating docks. I've got power. I've got great fresh water. People love our water out there. And I've got a few little amenities. We've got a food truck going in. It's fun to just walk around because it's in its state where nothing's happening construction-wise, structure-wise, but the church is about done. But I'm going to guess right now and tell everybody that we're hoping to have about 20 cottages open, sometime either late this year or early next year. So
yeah, I know that was definitely probably a big question for everybody as far as accommodations, but I know you're getting there. And you guys are doing a tournament there this year?
Yes, this is our second annual tournament. We're very excited about it. We had a really good first year, had 38 boats. This year we're going to have, I think, 47. And it's an invitational. It's got to be pretty much sports fishing boats because I can't do the Center Constable because I don't have any accommodations really. Yeah. I'd love to do that, and I know a lot of those people hate me. I don't have anywhere to stay for these guys. We're probably a year away from doing some kind of tournament like that, but it's a Calcutta. We're hoping that again 47 boats. I've got a beautiful tent that I put up, and again the Marina's done, so it's. You get that feeling already. Last year, I walked up on the hill when all the boats were in the Marina. I just lost it. I knew that I had did it. I had brought walkers back to at least the sports fishing part of it. Yeah. And this year, Fly Navarro's our sponsor this year, is doing a great job. We've got some really neat things, some couple surprises this year, and it's a major impact to the local economy. Rosie, who runs the hotel and a bunch of businesses on the island, said last year's tournament was the best weekend he has ever had in the history of Grand Key. Wow. And so the peripheral, benefits is great for everybody over there. And eventually I want to get to 4 or 5 tournaments a year. But this one is the big one. So
yeah, that's amazing. And how many boats did you have there like throughout the winter? You said you had a good Wahoo season. Did you have, other than big boats, you had some center consoles there too at all? Yeah,
we get a lot of visitors. We get people that come in, don't know we're there yet. We do monitor 74. If anybody's around there, please come in. There's people there. We sell fuel all 24 hours a day if you need it in emergencies. The docks are always open. I'm $5 a foot, all inclusive right now. And it's very basic. You got the neat thing is you got customs there and immigration. If you fill out your stuff online and show up there, you can clear, like that. Yeah. And it's very, very easy. The one thing we're trying to bring awareness to people is, Walker's has a national park north of it. We have a 10 square mile, basically a rectangle, that, has never been really enforced or protected because it's so far out that they don't have the resources. But I'm a big proponent of it. I grew up going to Belize and I watched them protect the reef down there when I was a teenager, and it exploded with life. And I want to do that same thing. If you talk to the local fishermen, they're complaining they have to go farther and farther away to get their catches. And I'm telling them, I'm saying you can't mess with the nursery. You got to have a place where everything can grow. And so I don't want to arrest people and fine them and stuff like that, but I do want to bring awareness to it. And so when people check in, we're going to show them where it is and just ask them, look, just please stay out of there and don't kill stuff. And if you do go in there, you're allowed to obviously dive and snorkel and stuff in there. And you can kill one thing, and that is you can kill all the lionfish you want. And there are a few in there. But it's something that I think that I've got a real challenge. I've got to balance, the environment with bringing walkers back to life. And especially with kind of a new market. I mean, in the old days, you didn't have this army of center consoles. I mean, you've got these $3 million jobs out there today that can get to walkers from Jupiter or Stewart in an hour and a half. And so I'm going to try to institute a 12-foot rule, which is let's not kill anything 12 feet or up. And that you don't have to go very far to do that. Okay. And the neat thing is from Walker's East, I don't know how much time you guys have spent up around that area, but it's nothing but uninhabited bonefish heaven. Yeah. Along with carpet and permit and everything else mixed in there. We love mutton snapper fishing, African pompano. We know where down plains are, sunken shrimp boats. I've gotten to know a lot of the locals that kind of tell me where everything is. And oh my God, it's a menagerie. I can tell you the fishing out there is alive and well.
Nice. So the 12-foot rule, anything obviously under 12 foot.
Yes. And so go out, find 13 feet, and you can pick up conch and lobsters, and you can spearfish and stuff like that. But, the previous owner had that rule, and it's not a law. I can't make laws, obviously, but if you don't pay attention to the rules, well, a lot of us do. You're not welcome back.
Is that just a general rule? Is there anything behind that beyond, just trying to make it a little bit more difficult to kill things?
I mean, it's sort of, there is some science behind it, I think, and it creates that nursery. I mean, the things that are real important as a nursery out there are the reef itself. And I'm telling you, the reef is, even after touring, it's in magnificent condition. It's pristine. And it's, when you think about what's happened in the Keys, it's a gem we have out there, and we got to protect it. But then seagrass, and we have a ton of that around. And if you go 12 feet, you get way out there. There's a few wrecks you can go get beyond that and stuff. But again, it's a rule. I would hope people at least pay attention to it, because again, we have a real balance. I come from the trash business, as I told you, so I know a little bit about it, and I know about landfills and recycling and incineration and all that. And I'm going to try as best I can to make it a zero waste island. I'm doing away with diesel. I'm a Texan. I love natural gas, so we're going with LNG, which is a 99% reduction in emissions, about a 50% reduction in noise, and about a 60% reduction in cost. The real problem with LNG is the initial capital of the machines. You're basically buying a jet engine.
Is that for the generator that runs the power on the island? Is that what you mean? Okay, gotcha.
And that'll run the marina. It'll run the resort, and again, you will have zero emissions coming out of that thing practically.
Wow.
So
is back to what you're saying, is fishing prohibited in the marina?
It isn't right now because there's not a lot of boats and there's kids that come in and stuff. But eventually, I'm probably going to have to do that, only because it's funny, you watch Shark Week and they complain about shark populations around the world. We don't have that problem in the waters.
I don't think anywhere on the East Coast there's any issue with that.
I even these last few years, it's boggling me. It's scaring me a little bit. I mean, we're seeing huge sharks, big hammerheads out at the site. We're seeing tiger sharks, lemon sharks, makos. We've seen. We have a submarine that we use. It's a Triton 3300. We saw a great white off walkers last July at about 200 feet. Wow. And so they're out there. But if you get, we've had, since I've owned the island, we've had 3 shark attacks, people that have had to fly out, no fatalities. All 3 of them were spearfish. And so it's about blood in the water. And I don't know how much you know about the history of walkers, but they used to have the shark rodeo back then, where they'd take all the fish guts, freeze them, put them in a big ball, and then they would go out and put it out in about 80 feet, and they would dive on it. And over like 20 years, nobody got hurt. And it absolutely amazes me. Nobody got eaten.
Wow.
But it's fun though when you are looking for sharks because they are everywhere.
Yeah.
So
wow, that's incredible. And just one more, how far north, I'm back to that little sanctuary you're talking about. How far north of Walker's is that?
Okay, Nick. So it's 10 square miles. It's about 600 yards directly off of Walker's. And then it goes past the reef about another 600 yards. So it's into the deep water a bit, but then all the way, fairly close to the island.
Okay.
Okay. I can, geez, I wish I had a map we could post. But again, when people check in, we're going to have a little sign there that shows where it is and just ask you to, and believe me, it won't take long. I mean, I think we've already been kind of protecting it with a little patrol boat I got, and you give it a few years, and that thing will be a mecca.
Yeah, I think that's great. I mean, I know there's probably a lot of spear fishermen that are ready to get back to Walker's. I know there's giant hogfish pulled out of Walker's for many years. So,
and the mud snappers, And the other thing we're doing too, I should mention, is something about that reef. I partner up with a firm in Nassau, and we are planting over 1,000 staghorn coral spots that it's proven to work down south. I don't see any reason why it shouldn't work up north. And, you give that 5 or 10 years and we'll bring that back.
Yeah.
So a lot of exciting stuff going on.
That's amazing. You're doing great stuff.
Thank you.
Yeah. Your passion for the area is it's incredibly obvious. I think it's awesome.
Well, I mean, I realized that all the stuff that I want to do, it's all kind of related. We've done a lot of philanthropy, buying the island, doing the studies that we do, the submarine stuff, and then of course the salvage. I've been going there for 45 years, and it's something that I'm a resident. The way things are going with our government, I'm thinking about becoming a citizen. Mark that. But it's my wife and I, and thank God my family loves it too. But we really, I like the mountains, but that's a place I like to visit. I want to call Walker's home and live there. And, and I have a big fleet that we move around a lot. We study a lot, and it's something I can't imagine life without it.
Yeah. How have you? I mean, you've been there, going there for 45 years. How have you changed? Have you seen it change? For better, for worse? Is there? I mean,
I've seen there's been a lot of suffering there. The Bahamas has a history of bad deals that hasn't helped them. But again, I come from the trash business. It's like Hemingway used to say, the Bahamas are islands in the stream, and 80% of the trash on the beaches over there, and there's a ton of it, doesn't come from the Bahamas. It comes from the DR, it comes from Venezuela, it comes from Haiti, and it all comes this way. And I think the one thing that I want Walker's to be kind of the canary in the mine shaft, is that when we start seeing stuff like this out here, in the middle of nowhere, the world needs to pay attention.
Yeah.
And I think even though Bahamas and Walker's a very small place, I think we can be a pretty large voice. And people get a lot more involved and a lot more interested in wildlife, and the environment when they experience it. And that's what I think key to Walker's is, don't bring your kids to an aquarium. Aquariums are bad. For every one fish that's in there, kill 10.
Yeah.
Come to Walker's. I'll show you the real aquarium. That's what we ought to be doing in this world, is instead of bringing people to aquariums, bring the people to the oceans. And I think, I've had kids out there that I ask them, I said, what does a sea turtle eat? They say things like, oh, it eats hot dogs and chicken McNuggets. And no, guys, it doesn't. And in some cases, it eats plastic, and it clogs their systems and it kills them. So once they start to realize that, wow, if I pick up this piece of trash, I might be saving a turtle. It becomes so much more important to them. And adults are okay, but man, I go to town with kids, and that's what we do. We have a big educational program with the museum, and it amazes me. These little Bahamian kids, they live in paradise and they don't know it. And we're out here. I'm trying to convince them, like, everybody's trying to get here, kids. And a lot of these kids, they don't know about their own country. And so a challenge is getting them out, getting them on the beaches. We've got this whole summer program we do where they pick up all this trash, and then they identify it. I've got this whole program where we think it came from. We found potato chip bags from China one day. But at the end of the day, they use it to make Junkanoo outfits, which is kind of neat. And so, the future of the Bahamas, it's all about the kids. And one thing my wife and I have done, we've given away or donated up to 1,400 Amazon tablets to the school kids because all they have is books. And a lot of the books were destroyed in Dorian. And so all of a sudden, instead of an encyclopedia, now I have a device that's could have every book written known to man on it. And it's really, as a matter of fact, it woke up the government and they started matching us on donations. And so I'm trying to turn the Bahamas into like Silicon Beach, where they need to attract these big FANG companies someday. And the only way to do that, is through their kids. And they got to bring them up, electronically like the rest of the world. And it's amazing. Boy, there's some smart ones. I mean, let me tell you guys, if you find them, the ones that pick up on it are the smart ones. And, we focused on them to get them out diving, to teach them about the pollution problems, teach them about salvage. It's really cool.
It's awesome. How it's been working with the Bahamian government? I know that there was a policy that you had that you pretty much used all Bahamian, contractors and tried to, just do the right thing and fulfill, the economy around the northern Bahamas and the Bahamas in general. Like how has that been working with the government and the local contractors?
Well, that's a great question. I mean, again, it was very important to me when we started Walker's that as much Bahamian labor contractors that we could get. And I'm proud to say that as we sit, it's been almost 100%. But the challenge has been when you have two governments now. I had a government change last October, and I was really getting tight with the last one. And it was like, oh my God, they're listening to me. They know what we're doing. They know all this stuff we're doing for the islands. And then they lost the election. And for a minute there, I thought, oh my God, I'm done. I've done all this here, and I've heard nightmares about when the government changes. And I got to tell you, I was called in 24 hours after the election. I was called into the Prime Minister's office, and he did nothing but thank me. And it was one of the greatest days of my life. And I knew that we were going to be able to continue to do everything that we're doing. And I'll say it, Mr. Brave Davis, the new Prime Minister of the Commonwealth of the Bahamas, is a tremendous man, and he's got a hard job ahead of him, but he's well liked by the people, and the government there. It's hard. I mean, they've lost billions in the last couple of years of business, and they've got bond payments coming up, and there's healthcare problems and Social Security and what they need that will fix all of that in a week is they need Americans to come back. Okay. I mean, most of the marinas have been empty. The cruise ships, obviously, have had their issues, and here we are again. They're back and forth. But eventually, the little marinas, the backbone of the Bahamas, please come back. We're here. We're open. I'm just a gateway. Down south, little by little, everybody's opening back up. And
is it difficult to get? I'm not familiar with the process to get into the Bahamas at this moment with the COVID and everything. I gotta go through there, in a couple of weeks. So
it's not bad.
The previous Prime Minister was actually a doctor, an incredible man, a guy named Dr. Minnis, and quite timely to have a doctor as a Prime Minister during a pandemic.
Absolutely.
And I think everybody will give him huge praise for the way that he kept. He really kept the pandemic at bay. What he wasn't able to keep at bay was the economy. And so, here we sit. There's probably, I just talked to a good friend of mine who owns a marina down south of me, and he says they're getting some weekend traffic. Okay. But at the end of the day, if we can get these marinas 60, 70% full, it helps the whole country. I mean, from the people baking to the people doing bone fishing trips to serving food to making food, everywhere. And I can't stress enough to you how bad it's been for some of these folks. And we've been a little bit of a bright spot out there because we have been keeping people employed. And there's been, 50 to 75 people at a day when we can get them there. But to answer your question, the current law is that you have to be tested within 3 days of travel to the Bahamas, and then you have to be tested within 48 hours that you're in the Bahamas. Okay, so that can be a little bit tricky. I don't know about most resorts. I'm sure, Nassau is fine. I know at Walker's, we have that ability at our custom shop to test you once you've been tested, or once you're in the country, you can be tested. And it's basically pretty easy. It's just an electronic form after that. And then you don't need anything to get back into the U.S. right now.
Hope that it becomes easier and easier. It seems like more and more you hear of more and more regulations being lifted. So hopefully it keeps on becoming easier.
Yes.
Yeah.
You want to talk about the fleet a little bit?
Yeah. I mean, dude, I always find it for people in your position, you have a corporation under yourself with just the just your boats, I mean, how many people, crew members do you have amongst the 4 or 5 boats?
Well, if you look at there's 2 fleets that we operate. One is my personal fleet, and then we have the whole salvage fleet. And between the whole crew, I think there's 14 vessels and there's 47 crew members.
Wow. Incredible.
And so, quick story on how it all started is that this is right after I sold the company. My wife's birthday is in September, and I knew I was going to do something. And we hadn't bought Walkers, but I knew it was a part of it. And so I went out, and at the time, it wasn't as hot as it is right now. And I love Westports, and specifically love their 164s. And so I went out, and there was one of them that was on the market, and I believe it a little bit biased here, but I believe it was the best one. She's a 2010, 164 feet. She draws 8 feet. She's got a crew of 11. And I surprised my wife with it, put a bow on it, and we walked up to it, and I said, "It's yours." And she couldn't believe that I bought a white boat. She's like, "Oh my God, all I've ever bought is fishing boats in my life." And she was shocked that I bought this beautiful, glamorous boat, Well, right down the road after that happened to be the Fort Lauderdale Boat Show. And she goes, "Well, why do you need to go to that?" And I said, "Well, I bought your boat. Now we got to go find mine." And it was something that I knew I wanted. I knew I needed a yacht support vessel for a lot of reasons. One is when you have a yacht, you can put all the crap on this support vessel and you can keep that yacht totally clean. And it's wonderful. Okay. So we keep everything on the axis. The axis is, I saw it. It was at the Fort Lauderdale Boat Show. I saw it from a distance. There was people climbing all over it. And I turned to my CO and I said, "That's it. Let's go. We want to buy that." And he said, "What? You haven't even looked at it yet?" I said, I don't need to. And so this absolutely wonderful company, Damon, there's an old saying, if it ain't Dutch, it ain't much. and the axis is a 183 steel bottom aluminum superstructure beast. She's got 4 Caterpillar main drives, and she's got 3 Caterpillar big generators in it. So it's at the boat show, it's like a Caterpillar showroom down there. But it holds everything, got a big deck, submarine. I've got a small airplane that actually goes on there. It's got a full dive shop, all the tenders. The bridge looks like something out of the future. It's incredible. We've got an EXTA system in there, which, look that up. It's a real sophisticated system where you don't have to go. We're one of the few vessels in the world that can go paperless because it updates all the time. And so the Axis really was sort of the fulcrum of everything that I wanted to do. And we really welcomed it to the family. I called it Axis because of a couple reasons. It's got a big axe bow, for one. And 2, it gives me access, to everything we do and access to the world. So, and then, I love to do everything else, hunt and fish, but I'm a big fisherman. And I've got a great captain, this young kid from Stewart who's worked for me for a long time, Ian Weber. He was called the fish master in one of the magazines once that went right to his head. But we started out we started out in a 39 CV fishing. And then a little later, this is actually before the GG, a little later I got into a 52 Viking Express. Loved that boat. Caught my biggest fish in that off of Mystique. We caught an 800-pound blue down there. That got a little challenging keeping up with the fleet. So we ended up a few years ago getting a 68 Viking and open bridge. And I'm like, oh my God, I've arrived. This is it. This is the only one I'm ever going to need. I'm done. And last summer, Gigi, my yacht, got struck by lightning, and it took it out for 6 months. And I got sort of tight living on that 68. And so about a month into it, we bought an 80, and it has an enclosed bridge. I never thought I would like an enclosed bridge, and I am never going back. I mean, it's so good for weather. You got an extra room up there. It's just a place to go. You want to be quiet. I got a tower. We've fallen in love with that boat. We've had it about 2 months now and already caught a blue with it and a bunch of other stuff. I got a CV. And then the other real passionate thing that I'm all about is the backcountry. I mean, I'd just as well be bone fishing out in the backcountry than out there with the blues. And so I've got 3 Hell's Bays. I've got a Marquesas edition that's about 4 years old, an old model whip spray. It's like a 16.8, 1680 thing. And then God bless Hell's Bay. They made me a Walker Cay edition. Wow. And it was sort of an upgrade from the Marquesas, and I got to customize it a little bit. And one of my favorite things is just we run 40 miles out, 40 miles back, and hit it all. And part of what I'm going to have on Walker's on the west end, it's going to be a very different experience than the Marina. You know, there's going to be a lot of hustle and bustle and grills and sports fishing and, you know, cleaning fish. The other end is going to be the Bonefish Lodge. That'll be great for like a corporate retreat, you know, bachelor party, wedding party. It'll sleep like 10. I'll have a fleet of Hell's Bays. Got a deal going with Hell's Bays. And one of the neat things is there's about 6 or 7 bone fishing guides over there at Little Grand Key that want to come back to work, that know that area like the back of the hand and can't wait to get back to work. And so, you know, being a bonefish guide in the Bahamas in history has been one of the finest jobs you could have, you know, and you listen to some of these stories that I've heard, guys fishing with Richard Nixon and, you know, guys, you know, fishing with all these singers and golf pros. And it's just something I want to bring it all back. And that's part of it is the backcountry. I don't want to have too much backcountry because it's pristine. Oh my God, I don't want to ruin it. It's so nice, you know.
Well, with all that said, I mean, I have to ask you about my favorite show, Walker Cay Chronicles.
Yeah, I mean,
did you ever get the bonefish with flip pallet or anything?
Well, I'll tell you a quick flip pallet story. You know, I'm like you. I grew up watching it. You know, I think I was 30 when it came out. My wife and I were living in Atlanta, and it would come on real early in the morning on Sundays. Yep. And my wife's like, God, you wake up to watch Flip at 6 a.m. You won't go to church at 10:30. You know, and I'm like, wait a minute, this is my church, you know? And so when I bought Walker's, or actually before I bought Walker's, I said, you know, I have to meet Flip Pallet. I absolutely have got to get to meet this man. Yeah. And long story short, we're very, very good friends now. But I called him up 2 weeks before I bought the island and said, hey, my name's Carl Allen. I've got a contract to buy Walker's Cay. We're closing in a few weeks, blah, blah, blah. And he said, yeah, I've been hearing that. You know, call me back when it's real and blah, blah, blah. Because, you know, I caved in 5 times. And so I said, hey, hold on a minute. I'm a big fan. Just listen to me for a minute. Can I buy you dinner? And he says, all right. So I went up to, he lives in this tiny little town in northern Florida, middle of nowhere. And I pull up and it was exactly what I thought the man to be. I mean, he was carving a wild turkey hanging in his backyard as I walked up and kind of nonchalantly, you know, yeah, who are you? But one of the coolest moments of my life happened that evening is we were sitting in his living room and we had dinner and we were drinking this frigate rum, which we're partners on now. And my cell phone rang and it was my lawyer. And he said, congratulations, Mr. Allen, you own Walker's Cay.
Wow.
Getting choked up as I say here, but I was sitting there with Flip, and you know,
that's amazing.
I can see a little tear come out of his face, and I've told that story a few times, and that moment, he fucking believed me. Man,
that's incredible. Like, what are the odds of that phone call with flip out
Just,
that night.
Yeah, and then since then, he get out, and if you get a chance, it's on YouTube, but it's the Return to Walker Cay. We did it about 2 years ago, and he comes back. He takes the Hell's Bay at night across the Gulf Stream into Walker's, him and his buddy, and he shows up there on my yacht. I go, Flip, this is crazy. He slept for 22 hours. I told him, you're not going back. So I bought Flip's boat. That's the Marquesas that I have. And he did this 20-minute video that is absolutely spectacular. You got to go watch it.
Yeah, I'll have to check it out. Yeah, he's not a spring chicken anymore to be doing stuff like that.
So, I'm telling you, I know Flip pretty well these days, and he's one. I feel bad because he is not. He's not vaccinated. He never will be, but he doesn't leave his area. He's either fishing or hunting somewhere where nobody else is. And I'll call him in the morning and say, quiet, I've got a javelina coming up, or quiet, I'm throwing a fly, and he hasn't changed a bit. And, I think he's 80, and, I'm thinking, bringing back the Chronicle. I mean, that's really,
I think that'd be amazing.
Yeah, that would be something, The problem we have right now, ESPN owns it, and I'm not going to say too many bad things about them right here, but they have agreed to let me view each episode for $500. I said, well, I'll pass on that right now. But that's the challenge. I can't call it the Chronicles, but, And then the thing, Flip used kind of Walker's as sort of the show beginning, and he did a few shows out there. Mm-hmm. But really, he was a traveling show.
Yeah.
I think you could do a show just about what we do at Walker's.
Yeah.
And that's something that, we'd like to talk. I understand you guys are doing our release flags.
Yes, we are. Yeah, for the tournament. We're very excited for that. So thank you.
Yes, those came out really nice.
Yeah.
Yes. We might need some pink ones.
Absolutely.
And what do you recommend for a child one?
A child.
Or a kids flag.
Yeah.
We have a kids section or category.
Yeah, we'll brainstorm about that, but yeah, we could make something.
Okay, so that's about it. Walker's, it's Bonefish Meet the Billfish. Love to have you guys out sometime if you want to come check it out. We always got a few little cottages for people to stay. Just walking around, and I take a fly ride when I walk around. You can catch bonefish right off the beach.
Amazing.
And, we like to go out in the CV and catch the mutton, catch the pompano, go out in the the big boat. And we get the Marlin, the wahoo, and my favorite time out there is the spring tuna fishing and just going out there and chasing the birds.
Yeah,
and we literally back right up to this stuff. Sometimes we'll catch live pilchers, and we'll throw a bunch of pilchers at them and just have them school around the back of the boat. I mean, it just doesn't get any better than that. We do that with Dorado too when the Dorado come. I've run up to that buoy off of.
Oh wow, how's that?
It's exactly 100 miles from Walker's. About 7 out of 10 times you'll nail them out there, but we've had a couple of bad trips.
Yeah.
Now, here's one thing. I think 2 things I wanted to mention while I had you guys. One, I'm going to put fads in.
That's what I was about to ask you. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
I've been in contact with some really knowledgeable characters that have a lot of experience doing it, and they're very excited. And so I'm going to stretch them at different depths, about 20 miles.
Wow.
And something that I do believe I'll get some of that project done this year, not before the tournament, but I think I will share some of the numbers. And then, I get this question a lot, about my $1 million Marlin. I don't know if you guys have heard that story.
Yeah, I was going to ask you about that. Yeah.
So
people have asked, is that still in existence?
Yeah. So I went to, it was the custom shootout Skip Smith tournament last year or 2 years ago now. I think I had a few rum and cokes, and I was trying to promote Walker's a little bit, and got up there and spouted this $1 million fish. And so I, kind of had to stick to it a little bit. So here's what I'm doing. I did it for the tournament last year. It's $1 million if you catch it during the tournament right now.
Okay.
But I'm going to open it up unless somebody wins it. I'm going to open it up to everybody the first year that we're open for business. Okay. And now the only caveat here is, because I don't want a frozen fish coming in from Portugal. One of the things you're going to have to do is check in at Walker's. Okay. Because again, I don't want a frozen fish showing up from Portugal. Okay. So that we know that you started there. You can go as far as you want from there, but you have to come back to Walker's, obviously. Okay. And then within a 24-hour period. So, I have to have some rules. Otherwise,
yeah, absolutely.
Who knows what would happen if I just said,
somebody coming from Bermuda.
Yeah. Or from even Bermuda's not that far. So
yeah. That's exciting.
Pretty amazing, Mr. Allen. Your passion for the area and and just your love for just what you're doing is pretty incredible. It's pretty admirable I feel like you're doing it in the right way, being cognizant of the environment and the local economy and the people. I think that's pretty admirable because you don't see that in some places,
Yeah. I mean, I don't want to bring all these people back to something that we ruin. I mean, it doesn't make sense. I mean, matter of fact, we got to figure out some ways to enhance it. One of the things I'm doing is that I've hooked up with some cats about bait fish because I don't want people decimating my pilchard population.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And so I think that when we open, I'm going to be selling goggle eyes.
Nice.
And, they're real stout. You can take those out anywhere and it'll keep people away from, because those pilchards, everything feeds on those pilchards. They're sort of the beginning of the food chain out there. So, but
$100 a dozen.
Or that, yeah. I mean, you look at what they sell them in Florida.
Yeah,
I don't even think I'll do that. I think I'm going to sell them at cost, just to keep people away from my pilchard.
Well, Nick, you can go get those Bahamian goggle eyes. This Walker's Cay. Run over there, get those Walker's Cay goggle eyes. Win a couple tournaments, and then everybody will want those.
That'd be something, wouldn't it?
I wouldn't put it past the guys that Nick fishes against and Nick himself.
So, Anthony, is that a sports fish I see you're sitting on?
Yeah, I'm sorry. We're getting ready for a trip, and we're on the Blood Money 64 case and here in Wrightsville Beach, getting ready to go. So kind of chaotic. My mate's been running around, so I apologize for that. But 64 casing custom. Hope the B go to Walker's eventually.
Yeah, awesome. We'd love to have you guys.
Yeah. So well, we appreciate it, Mr. Allen. It was great.
Amazing.
Great to hear what you're doing over there and the way you're doing it. I think is, like I said, is really admirable. You can see it go other ways in a lot of different places, so I think it's appreciated by all the time you're taking to do it in the right way. So we appreciate the time.
Thank you very much, guys.
All right. Thank you, Carl. We appreciate it. And we'll hope to see you soon.